I'm Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not cooking up a batch of my famous wood-flavored chicken, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World.
Have you ever went over a friend's house to eat and the food just ain't no good?
This message is brought to you by Public Health, Seattle and King County, the Washington Department of Health, Washington Chapter AAP, and Within Reach. No matter where your classroom is, whether in person or online, routine vaccinations protect your child from serious diseases like measles, mumps, and chickenpox, and they keep your child safe, healthy, and thriving. Need help finding a provider? Visit parenthelp123.org or call the Help Me Grow Washington hotline at 1-800-322-2588.
This is Big Poppy, host of Jazz from the Cabinets. Join me each week for a listening tour of the first century of jazz, an eclectic mix of Dixieland, big band, cool jazz, bebop, contemporary jazz, world jazz, all jazz in all forms. That's Jazz from the Cabinets with Big Poppy on Rainier Avenue Radio, streaming worldwide on rainierAvenueRadio.world.
Mga kaibigan, ito po si Kuya Bert Kawili.
And this is Miles Salvador from Australia.
And I'm Norb Kawili, also known as Norbcam.
Kung gusto niyo po ang latest news and events from the Philippines at the local Filipino community, Phil-Am Radio po.
We play Filipino music and interview guests from all around the world.
And I'll keep you updated on the latest Seahawks and sports news.
Kaya always tune in, Phil-Am Radio every Tuesday, 1 to 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
And in YouTube and Facebook. Salamat po.
Has your small business experienced property damage? Apply for the Storefront Repair Fund to receive a $2,000 grant to help cover storefront repair costs. The Seattle Office of Economic Development is investing nearly $2 million to help businesses recover from the economic impacts caused by damages to their storefronts. Grants will help cover costs such as broken windows, broken doors, broken locks, and etching on windows. Applications will remain open until all funding is awarded. Application assistance is available in multiple languages at 206-684-8090. For more information and to apply for the Storefront Repair Fund, go to seattle.gov/economic development.
You know you can't get enough of Rainier Avenue Radio. .world.
Yo, what up, though?
I got to talk. I gotta tell what I feel. I gotta talk about my life as I see it.
All right, then. It's time for you to bring it to the table.
Turn up your radio wherever you at. We about to bring it.
Street Beat.
Yeah.
With Tony B. For the next hour, Tony B will give you a chance to tackle local, national, and international issues that affect your community. Street Beat. Street Beat. Tony.
Welcome to this week's edition of Street Beat. Give me about one more minute, and I'm going to be back to speak with our guests about Storefront Repair Fund, the Storefront Repair Fund, and Shop to the Beat. So, give me, what do you think? About another minute? All right. About another minute.
I'm Paul Pearson, host of Star Time.
A little
and when I'm not cooking up a batch of my famous wood...
Nothing that is major. Just be a little bit more comfortable. It is raining outside. By the way, this is Street Beat. It's me, your host, Tony B. And again, my guest joining me will be Domonique Meeks, and we'll be talking about Shop to the Beat, and then also Scott Plusquellec, and I'll be talking to Scott about the Storefront Repair Fund. So, as a matter of fact, I mean, I'll take this time to give you a little information about what's going on here. We'll start with Shop to the Beat. It is the city's economic recovery effort for small businesses and local musicians and neighborhoods around Seattle. So what this program does is it matches small retail businesses with local musicians to host free in-store performances during peak shopping hours. The hope is that this will increase foot traffic and sales for retailers and provide also, which is very cool, competitive pay for musicians who were impacted during the pandemic. So sounds like this is pandemic related money. Sounds like this is something that should be very cool. If again, it is what it says that it's going to be. I think, the vibe of having music in stores, and artists get paid. And then also the store benefits, and it provides a good thing. Well, we'll find out more about this. Why don't you go ahead and bring him in? Oh, let's see. I may have a problem here. Dominic, I don't think I'm going to be able to hear you just yet. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. All right. You know what? There. Uh-oh. It just cut out.
Oh, can you hear me?
Okay, there we go. There we go.
Can you hear me?
All right. Now let me make sure. Dominic.
Yes.
I can hear you.
Perfect. Perfect.
Oh, well, man, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you on this fine, beautiful, typical Seattle rainy morning?
I'm doing really well. For one, seriously, I am excited. I don't know if you heard my monologue before you came on the air to talk about this program, Shop to the Beat. Just with the holiday spirit and everything, having music in stores and having something that benefits local communities sounds like a really good idea.
So I was going to correct you. Actually, I'm actually here to talk about a storefront repair fund. Scott gets to talk about the amazing Shop to the Beat, and so
that's. Well, man, let me reverse that.
All good. I was gonna say Scott is going to love talking about Shop to the Beat for sure.
Okay. Well, here's the other part of this conversation.
Absolutely.
That's going to take place. I mentioned Storefront Repair Fund. So, Dominique, let me talk a little bit about what it is, and then we'll, let you talk about it more. But again, something that sounds very cool. Sounds like a good idea. The Storefront Repair Fund, there's a $2,000 grant. It is a grant. Is that correct?
Yes,
it's a grant.
Correct.
So you have to apply for it. And it's for small businesses. Am I correct? Yeah. And if you've had something that may need to be repaired, this can happen through this grant.
Mm-hmm.
And my understanding is it could be anything from a broken window to broken doors, broken locks. Just getting into this, if that stuff has happened, it's something that people have already prepared.
Yes.
Because they've had to if it's a small business.
Yep.
But anyway, those types of things are eligible. If you want assistance with this grant, there's assistance available, correct?
Yes. And so there is assistance available. If folks have already had it repaired, this grant will serve as reimbursement. The criteria of this grant is the event had to happen after January 1st, 2021. And so if you go, excuse me, on our website, seattle.gov /Office of Economic Development, you'll be able to see sort of the criteria. It's similar to what the criteria was for our Small Business Stabilization Fund. 50 employees or less. You must have a City of Seattle business license and be in compliance with your B&O taxes. And you must be in Seattle city limits. And it's important that I always say, if you gross less than $100,000 as a business in the City of Seattle, you don't have to pay any City of Seattle taxes, but you do have to file. And so I do want to make sure I say that, just so that folks don't feel like they're going to have to come out of pocket.
Okay. Now, I appreciate you jumping in there and responding to that, because I did set it out there because, again, we have open, honest, frank conversation. Absolutely. I was going to get to that. If you just gave people a whole bunch of information at one time.
Yep.
So you said a lot of important things
yes.
that folks may have. So we're going to go back over those over the course of this show so that people understand, because again, that's one of the reasons why I brought this up, is so that folks can be prepared to say, okay, this is what you need to do in order to be a benefactor of this grant, at the end of the day. And I said, yeah, because most of the stuff has probably happened, but what is I want to call it the end date for making repairs, because you know what I'm saying, Dominic, sometimes stuff over this period may have been on the verge of breaking down.
Yep, absolutely. Well, absolutely. And we are at the holidays, and so it's open until the funds are exhausted. So there are about $2 million in funds. We are allowing folks to go back and do anything after January 1, 2021. There's about $2 million to be eligible for granting, and each grant is $2,000. And so folks are allowed to apply for up to 2 events. So if your store was broken into twice, now it does have to be a brick and mortar store that serves the public.
Okay.
And so we are talking about storefronts and businesses that serve the public.
And I believe you said retail too. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But it has to be a retail business. And I'm not going to hold you to to being a thesaurus, a dictionary. But when you say retail, what do you mean?
So it doesn't have to be retail. It just has to be a business that serves the public, right? Okay. It cannot be a private practice. We don't allow franchises. We don't allow chains. You cannot have 2 or more locations. And so we wanted to make sure that this was for the independently owned small business. And it's for-profit businesses only.
Okay. For for-profit businesses. So I'm just going to throw a few things out there that people who own businesses might own. Let's say you own a restaurant. Eligible?
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Let's say you sell shoes.
Yep.
Okay. Clothing, something like that. What about you sell insurance? Insurance.
You can sell insurance, which so the businesses that do not qualify are businesses in unincorporated King County, the adult entertainment, so I should specify unincorporated being Skyway and White Center. But because I say that, I do want folks to know, if you are in those places, King County Local is a good place to start, and they do a ton of grants, a ton of technical assistance for small businesses. If you are in the Skyway or White Center area. The other are adult entertainment businesses regulated under Seattle Municipal Code 6270. Cannabis shops, growers, and dispensaries are ineligible, and 501c3s, C6s, C9s, and nonprofit entities are not eligible for this grant.
Are not eligible. Again, you're listening to Street Beat. It's me, Tony B. My guest is Domonique Meeks. Actually, if you're just tuning in, you did not hear me misrepresent that earlier. So I'm just going to say from the Storefront Repair Fund. And that's what we're talking about right now, giving you the opportunity to find out how you can get up to $2,000 in a grant available travel. If you're the owner of a business, if you're so does it make a difference whether you have a lease, if you're renting the space, or if you own the space, as long as you have a physical space? You tell me.
Yes, and so it doesn't make a difference if you own or lease the space. So one of the things we do have to talk to the business owner. We do have to talk to the business of the owner, and it should be the business of the owner that is actually filling out this application, because it's important as we distribute the names of the folks that receive the grant. The one thing that we don't want to do is give a grant to someone that doesn't own the business and then have the business owner give us a call. And so we do want to make sure that the business owner is the one who's completing the grant.
Okay, so if you don't own the building, showing proof, showing your lease is probably part of it, but this has to actually be filled out by the application has to be filled out by the owner of the property.
Yeah, and we don't require you to show your lease. Your business license information through the city will let us know who the owner is and who runs the business, and we take that very seriously. About verifying all the information and verifying that you are indeed an active business in the city of Seattle. And on the topic of eligibility requirements and things that you'll need to submit in the application, we do require 2 out of 3 of the following. One being either a photo or video of the actual incident. 2 being the police incident report. And or 3, and now I'm blanking because we're live on air. And 3 being photo, video, incident report, receipt. And so either a receipt or an invoice that will say how much the repair should be. And so those it's 2 out of 3 and not all 3. And so there it is right there on your screen. And so the photo of the damage, the police report, or receipts for the repairs or completed estimates of your current damage.
Cool. And that's why we're doing this, Dominic, as you know, is to get the word out. But again, I don't know if you've ever listened to my show or not, but
of course,
I have an open, honest, frank conversation. Point is to get information out to the community. In particular, for folks who are struggling and battling, and they may say, hey, this is available. Let's be prepared for what you may have to do in order to receive this fund. So you're going to give away the entire $2 million until it's gone.
Yes.
You will be giving away this funding. So do you see anything, and I know this is your job, man.
Yes.
That might be barriers for people to say, I'm going to do this, because that's a lot of information and a lot of stuff, and then dealing with the landlord. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And through COVID recently, there has, I don't know what way to ice this over other than to say they've made it easier for people to receive things, because we were in a crisis situation. So I'm just wondering, do you see these things as barriers? And I understand what you have to do in your position, and maybe explain to people, why these things that may be seen as barriers are in place. You have to provide,
Yeah, I'll say we cannot get rid of every single barrier that exists. However, I will say that everyone that works in the Office of Economic Development is trying to do our best to learn from community, from business owners, there's a ton of small business organizations in every neighborhood. And I highly suggest if you are a small business owner, whether you're a brick and mortar business owner or even just a business owner that's doing something in your basement, please reach out to these organizations. Your Seattle Public Library has a library to business program that's amazing. Shout out to Jay Lyman, that will literally go through and give you the demographic information about whatever business that you're discussing. They will help you with technology needs, which can be a barrier. Language access is a barrier that we found out existed through our COVID recovery grants. And one of the things that we did to combat that was partner up with an organization called Lake City Collective. And so now you can call OED office and someone will get back to you in whatever language that you speak, and be able to fill out an application over the phone with you and go through and answer the questions over the phone. And so word of mouth travels fast. And so I will say, for those folks who are in a neighborhood where like, hey, this business that I passed by it sometime last year and they had a broken window. Maybe they don't know about the fund. So please don't assume that every business knows about the fund or that every business owner has access. As we know, our small business owners are opening the business, they're closing the business, they're doing the social media, they're the ones who are handling a bunch of issues. And so let them know. And I want everyone that's listening today, if you've passed by a business in your neighborhood where there has been an incident of broken windows or storefront damage, please let them know about this grant and let them know that they should apply. And we're with the Seattle Office of Economic Development. I'm happy to answer any questions that folks have as we go through this process.
And just to reiterate this, is the filing of a police report absolutely necessary in order to receive these funds? That was one of the things that was mentioned. And again, a lot of times people, they just push through it,
Yeah.
So,
great. And that's,
go ahead.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, and I was just that was one of the things that I heard you mention. If you're listening to this right now, you're going, I didn't file a police report, I just took care of it.
So two things about that. One, it's not required. As we said, 2 out of 3. And so that's your estimate. That is your receipts. That is your photo/video. The police report is the third option. So there needs to be 2 out of 3 of those. The other thing you should know, you can retroactively file a police report from whenever. And so you could call today about a broken window that happened a year ago and file the police report, and they'll give you an incident number that will suffice for the purposes of this grant. And so one of the things that I will say, I know that there is a hesitancy to file a police report sometimes. What I'll say in this, a lot of this comes from working from the city and understanding the importance of data. It's important that we do make sure that the Seattle Police Department knows that these incidents happen, so then we can sort of quantify that data so that folks like myself who work in the Office of Economic Development, folks in SPD, folks in our Department of Transportation can start to do something about a lot of these issues. And it's important that we also make sure that this data is also accessible. The City of Seattle has an amazing open data program where you can get all types of data from the city to benefit you and your neighborhood.
I don't know how you can answer this question. It's a grant, which means some people may get it and some people may not. Is this done on a point system? What are the things? How does the grant work? Where you say this group of folks get funded, or this group of folks don't get funded? Is this related to circumstances at all, or is just the information that is provided matches exactly what you want and you are funded because it's a grant?
You apply. If you qualify and we still have funding, you will receive funding. I will say it is important. This grant is you must gross less than $7 million a year in net revenue. And that is it was changed for, I think, we have 500,000 set aside for businesses that net in between 200,000 and 2 million and 7 million. And then the other round about 1.3, 1.5 million is for businesses that have less than $2 million in revenue. The reason for that is because some of our grocery stores, as we know, keep a very large inventory. And it isn't that they're making $7 million a year, but it is that because they keep such a large inventory, we want to make sure that this grant was also available for some of our ethnic grocery stores. So,
And how long has the grant been available?
So the grant application opened on October the 18th.
Okay.
And so in to date, we just went over somewhere about 400 grants, or excuse me, 400 applicants, I should say. And it's important to note that just because they applied doesn't mean all of them qualified for whatever reason. If folks had 2 or more locations, if folks were nonprofits and if folks didn't read all the criteria, then they would be disqualified, and we would let them know why they were disqualified, and we would move forward. And so there's plenty of money still available. Please encourage your small businesses and your friends and yourselves to apply if you find yourselves in this predicament.
Okay, open October 18th. Have you awarded any of the applicants?
We are still going through our verification process.
So for someone who's thinking about applying, do you have an estimate of how long it should take from the time that you submit your application? And I'm just going to go straight to not when it's approved, but when you get the money.
Yeah, so we will be sending our first checks out at the top of the year in January. And so that's to say that the stream of folks that applied on October 18th, the first day it opened, they'll start to see funding at the top of January. And so you could sort of back out through there. And so there's a lot of verification that has to happen. We do also, it should be noted, if you do not have a City of Seattle business license, we do encourage folks to apply for a City of Seattle business license and get their B&O taxes taken care of. City Finance is very wonderful as they process all of this information and help folks get through that process. If you do not have a license when you apply and we go across your application, we will give you 48 hours to get into eligibility. That being said, it is important because that requires some paperwork. It is important that folks do that ahead of time and get your business license. Talk to City Finance about if there are any back taxes owed for B&O or any back. And when I say owed, I also mean any back taxes that need to be applied for. It's important that happens. The other piece of it, because this is federal government funding, it requires what is called a UEI number. Now, the federal government is really backed up in supplying these UEI numbers. UEI replaced what was the DUNS number. And so the DUNS number,
it's a monster trying to get that thing straight, man.
Yes. So if you have a DUNS number already, you automatically have a UEI number.
Yeah.
But
you're not taking the DUNS number. You need the other, and I don't mean to get wonky about this, but if folks know what we're talking about.
Yes.
The DUNS number doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You need to get that straight. And
yes. And you won't need the UEI number for the application. So just apply. But you will need the UEI number in order to make sure that the funding is there and that you get paid. And so if you go to sam.gov, you can get your UEI number. I believe they ask for a couple of verification documents. And if your business isn't already in the system, then they'll process it right away. If for whatever reason they can't find your business, then they will give you a ticket. Now they're backed up. So
let me vouch for that.
Right. So that may take a while, but it will not. Please don't let that stop you from applying. We do encourage you to apply. We do encourage you to have patience with sam.gov. Our City Finance team is just sent out for folks to renew their business license. And so they're working through all the businesses in the city to get their business license renewed. However, they're pretty quick in their turnaround and them reaching out to folks to get all of that stuff in order. And so we do want to make sure that folks are in compliance. We want to make sure that folks are counted. And then the other thing that I'll say, OED is here. Yes, we're giving this $2,000 grant out, but as a city entity, we're here to make sure that we're creating a more inclusive economy for the city of Seattle, and that we're providing technical assistance and support to small businesses across the city. And so please utilize us for a plethora of programs that we have going on. And all of those are available on our website, our social media, you can check our social media handles out as well.
All right, man. I just let you go, bro, because I was gonna give you final words, but I said you're getting them in right now. Because
yeah,
but I appreciate you coming on the air again, having open, honest, frank conversation and sharing this valuable information with our community. And again, good job. Well done.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
The important thing is that the message gets out to our community and that they respond to this, you know. And so just before you go though, again, if people have more questions, because I got one, just again, is it a website that they can go to find out more? And in particular, say they want to get assistance, because we went over a lot of stuff here in a very short amount of time. Is that website or number the best way for them to get follow-up, get assistance, get help?
Yes. And so our website is seattle.gov / Office of Economic Development. If you don't catch that, just Google Office of Economic Development Seattle. It'll take you right there. Our phone number, if you need in-language assistance, if you just want to talk to a human being, it's 206-684-8090. Leave a message. If no one answers the phone, leave a message. Someone will reach back to you within 48 hours and be able to have a conversation with you about any of this. Once you go to the Office of Economic Development website, up at the top, there's a small business tab, and that'll take you to all of our small business programs that are open. And you can look through our website. We have some wonderful programs that are happening specifically for small businesses, and we're we're here for y'all.
Okay, I'm gonna cut you off now.
Yes,
I gotta get to the next.
Yeah,
but
yes.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for what you do, Tony. Appreciate you.
Hey, thank you for being here too. Scott Plusquellec is coming up, and I was talking about it, you know. So Dominique, you know, I can't take away his time.
Absolutely.
We're going to be back after a short break, and I'll be talking to Scott Plusquellec. We're going to be talking about Shop to the Beat, which is an opportunity for you to listen to music for businesses, small businesses, to have entertainment. And we'll find out more about how all this works. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask questions, but it sounds like a really good idea. We'll be back right after this.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not shouting "Badia" at city council meetings, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
PrEP is a daily pill that can significantly reduce your chances of getting HIV. And typically, it takes a trip to a physician to get it. Now, you can visit select pharmacies, get tested on the spot, and walk away with your first month of PrEP. Plus, you'll also walk away with a $50 gift card after you complete your pharmacy visit. It's easier than ever to protect yourself from HIV. To find your nearest participating pharmacy, go to doh.wa.gov/PrEP now. From the Washington State Department of Health and Public Health, Seattle, and King County.
Hey, this is Paul Pearson. I've hosted the R&B show Star Time since the very beginning of Rainier Avenue Radio, and after years of featuring tracks from the 50s through the 80s, Star Time now plays R&B and hip-hop from the 1990s as well. A whole half-century of soul, funk, hip-hop, and more on Star Time, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio.
The Beat of the Fox with Nastiness is back on K-Fox Night Beat.
Yo, what's the deal? It's the legendary Hall of Fame DJ Mixmaster Ice from UTFO.
What's up? Who you thought this is? This is Sir Mix-a-Lot.
And this is Terry Lewis.
And I'm Grand Mixer GMS.
What's up, y'all? This is DJ Third Degree.
This is JJ Hudson from the High Children family.
Sunday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's K-Fox Night Beat with DJ Nastiness.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music. Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
That's my noise.
Hey, Seattle, Shop the Beat is back. Shop the Beat supports the economic recovery of small businesses, local musicians, and neighborhoods throughout Seattle. This program matches small retail businesses with local musicians to host free in-store performances during peak shopping hours to help increase foot traffic and sales for retailers and provide competitive pay for musicians who were significantly impacted by the pandemic. The City of Seattle Office of Economic Development is currently accepting applications from musicians and small businesses who are interested in participating. Apply for Shop the Beat at seattle.gov/economic development. Applications end December 1st.
Rainier Avenue Radio, your community radio station, will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
Yo! What up, though?
I got to talk. I gotta tell what I feel. I gotta talk about my life as I see it.
All right, then. It's time for you to bring it to the table.
Turn up your radio wherever you at. We about to bring it.
Street Beat. Yeah.
With Tony B.
For the next hour, Tony B will give you a chance to tackle local, national, and international issues that affect your community.
Street Beat. Street Beat.
Tony.
Welcome back to Street Beat. It's me, your host, Tony B. I'm talking about the beat of the city. Shop to the beat is what we're going to be talking about. Scott Plusquellec from the city of Seattle will be joining us to tell us more about what Shop to the Beat is. So basically, you just heard a commercial play before this. At the end of the day, I think what we have here is the opportunity for small businesses to have entertainment. We'll find out more about what that means, what that looks like. The opportunity for musicians to get paid. And as consumers who are out shopping, you get the pleasure of having music. So sounds like a really good situation. We're going to find out more about this, how this works, who's involved, how you can get involved. Maybe you're a small business owner and you would like to have this at your establishment. Maybe you're a musician and you'd like to be considered. Well, let's find out more about it. Scott Plusquellec. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Tony.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. How are you?
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Nice to hear on a rainy day.
Yeah, I'd have to say fantastic. Well, let's start off with this, Scott. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do and your background as well.
Sure. So I'm actually, my title is the Nightlife Business Advocate for the city. I work with all of
Nightlife Business Advocate.
Yeah.
Some people may not even know that that's a position. I know in a particular, sphere, nightlife. Say it again.
Nightlife Business Advocate.
Nightlife Business Advocate. That's a good thing. Was this something that was created before the pandemic, during the pandemic, or during the pandemic?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting field. It's just started up. It's an emerging field of nightlife advocates and nightlife managers. Some people call them night mayors. There's a night czar in London. So the whole thing kicked off in 2012 in Amsterdam, where they hired their first Nachtburgermeister. And that's where the term night mayor came from, where that's kind of got picked up. And it's since spread globally. There are over 100 cities that have a similar position to this around the globe. And there's currently 14 of us here in the United States. My position was created in 2016. And I work to support our live music venues, our nightclubs, our bars, our whole economic system taking place in the evening and late night hours. So not just our entertainment systems, but looking holistically at what is happening at night, who is working at night, and what the needs are for those people. And then how can the city develop policies and programs that will help support those needs.
So really quickly here, because I want to move on, and it's going to be hard to make this really quick, but just really quickly summarize from your perspective what the pandemic did to your job.
It made it very difficult and very stressful. And it was majorly looking at how do we find the resources to get to our small businesses to keep them afloat in this sector. And so it was really just sort of sharing best practices, letting businesses know, letting venues know what other venues were doing, sharing those resources, pushing out, the funds to them, and really just trying to make sure that they were able to keep their doors open. But it's been a hugely impactful thing on them. They were the first to close. They were the last to reopen. Especially in the live music sector, touring is still kind of iffy, and COVID is still having impacts. And then so much of the workforce left the sector, so much of the back scene workforce, the lighting engineers, the sound engineers, the security guards, the waiters, the bartenders, there was just a huge exodus from this field because people needed to find other places to make money. And trying to get that back up again has been really difficult.
And today is like, I know I'm veering off, but I'm not for people who are interested in what I'm saying. Today is the last day of, what is it? Cloudbreak, right? Or tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, last day of Cloudbreak. How's that? Do you know much how that's been working out? How this festival is?
Yeah, it's been going great. I don't have a lot to do with it. That was a county initiative with working with.
I'm just wondering if you know about it from your perspective. How?
Yeah. No, it's going well. My understanding is it's going well. They've been selling out shows, and the mechanism, the kind of the hook, which is if you stay in a downtown hotel, you get free tickets to these shows. That's been doing very well. My understanding is that they've had a good percentage of the tickets that the attendees coming show the pass that they've gotten from being in the downtown hotel. So I think it's working very well for them.
All right. Well, see, they get a shameless plug just because we're having this conversation. You're listening to Street Beat. It's me, Tony B. My guest is Scott Plusquellec of the city of Seattle. We're talking about Shop to the Beat and the Shop to the Beat program. What is it? Tell us what it is. I've described it, but tell us what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I just said, the pandemic had such a huge impact, not only on the businesses themselves, the music venues, but also on our musicians and our artistic community. There was literally just everything stopped, and there was no place to perform. There was no place to make money. There was no artistic outlet. People were kind of stuck at home. There were some streaming services happening, some streaming, like people were figuring out how to do that, but there were a lot of barriers to that, and it wasn't a sustainable way for an artist to continue to make money without being able to get out and perform. So when the ARPA funds came in, the American Relief Plan Act funds, I think I got that right. We were looking at creative ways to use it. And being the nightlife advocate, I wanted to do something that had some impact for that sector. And a former colleague of mine sort of had this idea. He was like, well, wouldn't it be interesting if you suddenly walked into a shop where you wouldn't expect a musician to be, and there's somebody playing? And how do we tie all that together to revitalizing our small businesses, revitalizing our neighborhoods? And so that's sort of where the genesis for Shop to the Beat came from. And it's really simple. We basically place musicians in retail stores where you wouldn't necessarily be expecting to see a musician playing, with the intent being that we are providing a competitive wage directly to the musicians, but doing so in a way that actually allowed them to be artistically expressive again. So, for these folks who haven't been able to perform, we wanted them to be able to actually be out, be back in community, be back face to face with patrons, meeting new patrons. The hope being that they're going to find new fans, they're going to find new followers by this exposure in places that people might never have heard of them before. And then with the same intent being to hopefully, by having these performances there, increase foot traffic and increase revenue for our small businesses at the same time. So that's the core essence of the program.
Shop to the beat. The application process ends on December 1st?
Correct. Yep. So about a week and a half left to apply.
Okay, and that is the application for being accepted as a small business, and is that also the application for being a musician? Everything stops on December 1st.
Correct.
All right. So let's get the word out about this now.
Yeah, and and people should get their applications in. It's a really popular program, and we have people who are, we have businesses who. We want it to be effective for everybody, so we try to give as many performances as we can to any particular business, but we also have limited funds. So we have to be somewhat circumscribed by how many by looking at how many businesses we have in the program and how many we think might be coming in. So like I said, it's very popular. So if you want to do it, don't hesitate.
Okay. So how are the businesses that apply selected?
Sure. It's pretty easy. You just have to be within the city of Seattle with a brick and mortar shop. You have to have a Seattle business license, up-to-date one, and you have to have fewer than 50 employees. So small businesses located in Seattle with a business license. And that's really it. And we have businesses all over the city who are part of the program. And we have a range of different, like we have consignment stores, we have flower shops, we have a gym. We in our first iteration back in a year ago when we did a pilot project for it, just to sort of do proof of concept, we had a golf stadium and a golf hitting course. We have a number of breweries, cideries, things like that, cafes, skincare product places. I mean, it's a whole slew of businesses across the range who are participating.
So who determines which business gets selected? Is it done on if you fill out an application, is it first come, first serve as the application comes in? So that the sooner you do this, the better chances you have, because it's QC. You line up, you turn in your application, and that's how you get in there.
It really is. All we do is we get the application.
Or is there a selection process where somebody says, you know what, we need to make sure that this is done, I'll just use this word, equitably, so that one community that has access to this information, doesn't get all of the baubles? I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking you. And what I heard you say was first come, first serve.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. And it is first come, first serve. We just do check to make sure. But we did note that in the pilot program, which I referenced from last year, that we did not. So we have goals for numbers of BIPOC artists that are participating, and we have goals for numbers of businesses and communities, like you say, who might have less access to the materials in the program. And we didn't meet those goals for the businesses in the pilot program. So we did a concerted marketing, in-language marketing, in-language community media to boost those numbers up in this part of the program. So we have the goal of getting folks in communities which might not have access to the program more access to it through a more sustained marketing program for them.
So obviously, this is Rainier Avenue Radio. What is the level of participation that you have from businesses in our community, if you know that number, and for musicians in the community? I have some other questions too, but this is where Rainier Avenue Radio.
Absolutely.
Do you have information on how this is benefiting our South Seattle community?
I don't have that information currently for the businesses. I did a quick back of the envelope calculations for our musicians. So we ask musician demographic information. So of the performances that we've had so far, 72% of those have been self-identified musicians who self-identify as people of color. So, and 38% of that is are ones who identify as Black.
Okay. But no information on whether, I'm just asking.
No, I don't have specific geographic information at this time for you. Sorry.
Yeah, okay, like Columbia City or Rainier Beach or Hillman City or
we do have businesses in Columbia City. The interesting thing about that is, so the way that our office sort of looks at underserved communities, from my understanding of how we set this up and how other programs run, is looking at zip codes by zip codes. But what I found during our pilot program was that zip codes didn't necessarily capture the demographic of the business. So for instance, we had a number of BIPOC businesses in Ballard during the pilot program who participated, but they wouldn't have been captured by the way that we are capturing that zip code information. So I know it's a conversation that's happening at the city currently across all departments in terms of how we better collect this data and how we better how we have better transparency and proof of this. So it's something that we're working on within the program to make stronger and better.
You're listening to Street Beat. It's me, your host, Tony B. My guest is Scott Plusquellec from the city of Seattle. We're talking about the Shop to the Beat program, which, like I said at the start of it, sounds really good. You have the opportunity to have musicians get paid, businesses have performances, and then, those of us who are out shopping get to hear music and a vibe. But like I said, these things, they come with questions, because it's who gets to participate, and you can put a program like this together. And so so it's first come, first served. December 1st, you can still apply if you haven't applied. Do the businesses select the musicians? Or does somebody make that decision? How does that interaction between what music will be played and what business take place?
Yeah, so we partner with an organization called Gigs for You. They are a musician placement agency. They run the Music City program out at the SeaTac Airport. And they work directly with the business in selecting the genre, the type of musician, the specific musician, if that's on their roster. We have partnered with Gigs for You to bring, because we have the musician application here, so it's not just their roster. If other musicians are interested in being there, they can apply with Gigs for You and use a promo code S2B, so capital S, numerical 2, capital B, to indicate their interest in the program, and that alerts Gigs for You that is that's an artist that is looking to specifically participate in that. So they work directly with the businesses themselves to determine numbers of musicians, like who's going to perform, when that's going to happen, all the logistics.
Yeah. So in the pilot program, you did not meet your goals.
For the businesses, yeah.
For the businesses. Like I said, it's a cool program, but if the goals again aren't being met, even in the pilot program, groups are not being included, then it's not so cool. I don't know. I certainly like the concept. And Scott, again, how we get down on this show. We just have open, honest, frank conversation, and I
absolutely
straightforward about it. Do you know what, from your perspective right now, and we can call them goals, For some other folks, they wouldn't call them goals. They would call it, I'm trying to survive. You know what I mean? I'm trying to, eat. I'm trying to keep the lights on in my business, in my, in my home, and programs like this. For me not to know about them and for me to be not part of it, that's not. We'll just use this word, even though it's fair. You know what I mean? Which we've seen the pandemic, expose a lot of those holes in the system. So how do you think the program is working so far, seeing as how you didn't necessarily meet your goals, and I'll just use that word, in ensuring, and I don't know if you can ensure with the application process, that this is helping the communities, in particular those who may be most vulnerable, and the businesses that may be most vulnerable, and the individuals that are musicians that may be the most vulnerable, or is that even a concern?
No, it is a concern, and that's why we looked at what we did in the pilot program and realized that we hadn't done the outreach that we needed to do within those communities to the extent that we should have, and that's why we created a much more extensive program of marketing directly to those communities to try to ensure that we do reach them and that they do find out about it and that we do get them included. I don't yet have the ability to say whether that has been a success, to be honest, but we will be looking at that data as we continue. We have another month of the program. We attempted to rectify it by doing the outreach much more extensively in those communities. And working with those partners, I did outreach directly to a number of the business organizations within Hillman City, within Columbia City, within our Rainier Avenue, through the Office of Economic Development, that those connections that they had with them. So we made a concerted effort for it. My hope is that we have reached those goals and have reached those people and reached those businesses to bring them in.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying it's easy.
No, it's not easy.
I'm just asking how it's going.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the places. Do you have examples you want to share with us now about, businesses and how that's worked out? Or do the artists, this is like multiple questions here in one. Do the artists play outside? Do the artists play inside? What's been going on? I've had people said, you know what, I'm taking this to the next level and put lights in or build stages or because these are non-conventional places where music is. What's the vibe been, Scott, so far?
It's been great. It's been really great. The businesses love it. I went around last weekend just checking in on some of the places. Simply Soulful restaurant down on 23rd and Jackson. Went in there. The vibe was great. We had a blues guitarist guy in there. I spoke with the owner. She is down for it. She was asking if we were going to continue it next year, if we were going to have the funds for it. We are looking to see if we can continue that. If we can find a continuing revenue stream to be able to do it, because the response has been so positive. But right now we don't have those funds, so it's difficult to know how we're going to be able to move it forward. But it's clearly been a big response, and I talked with the musicians at a couple of different places. They've loved it. They say it's really great to be that the program takes them to places that, takes them to communities and places that they hadn't been before, that they are meeting new people, that they are getting new fans through the program, that it's just great to be sort of out there and interconnecting with folks in such a close proximity way, because there's not most of these places, you have to have a certain amount of square footage to be able to handle the performance. Mm-hmm. But other than that, there's really no distance or disconnect between the performer and the patrons. And so they're right there interacting with them. Patrons can talk to them about the music, ask them about their instruments, what they're playing, what their background is. Most of the places, most of the venues are allowing the artists to sell merch. at least CDs and things like that. So so on those metrics, I think it's being very successful in terms of getting musicians back into community, livening the community, giving some vibrancy to our neighborhoods, and making those connections again through music that we lost during the pandemic.
Scott, thanks for joining me, man, and sharing information
Thank
about
you.
Shop to the Beat. I do have 1 minute left here. I want to give you for final words. Included in that is information, if you can, about how people can apply, whether you're a musician or a business, and then anything you just want to say.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to come on here and talk to you and talk to your listeners. I think it's a really great program. I'm very excited for it, and I do hope that we are able to find ways to expand it in the next year. If people want to apply, they still have until December 1st, and they can do so by going to the OED website, which is seattle.gov/economic. So easier. Just Google Shop to the Beat. Just Google Shop to the Beat. Forget the website. Just Google Shop to the Beat, and that'll take you right to it. And that's for both businesses and for musicians to apply. And again, for musicians, remember that if you're applying, please put in the promo code S2B on your application. And again.
Oh, really quickly, this is probably important. If you're a musician and you apply, does the business have to request you, or if the business doesn't request you, don't get to play? Or I'm just trying to, for those musicians who want to apply, you know what I mean?
So musicians who want to apply, they become part of the gigs roster, and they will be they'll be listed as when gigs works with the business as
somebody still has to select you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. You don't just automatically get to play because you're
got it. No. Yeah.
Okay. Cool in the gang. Scott, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Tony.
That's it. That's all the time that we have. That's going to do it for the kid. It's me, Tony B, your host of Street Beat, saying, remember, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you are probably right. I'm out. Peace.